Welcome to Follow Me to the MROP, a podcast dedicated to the journey of the masculine soul and the transformative power of initiation. My name is Brian Mueller. I live in suburban Dayton, Ohio, and I made my rites at Pilgrim Park in Illinois in 2014. I'm your host, and in each episode of our show, I'll sit down with one man who has made his rites, and I'll invite him to tell his story. This won't be an abstract explanation or a theological lecture, just a real conversation about what it was like to cross that threshold at the rites and what changed afterward. Before we begin, a quick word of gratitude. This podcast is brought to you by Choosing Presence. We believe that the greatest gift a man can give his community is his own presence. In a world of constant distraction, Choosing Presence provides the tools to help you stay grounded in the now. If you'd like an easy way to begin learning about the practice of presence, you can download the free Practicing Presence app at choosingpresence.org/app. Now, the Men's Rites of Passage, or MROP, is an experience designed to help men move from the first half of life into the second, shifting from a focus on ego and achievement to a life of meaning and soul. On this show, we just don't talk about the rites in theory, we talk to the men who have walked the path. Today, we are joined by a man who has made his rites, and we're going to hear exactly what that journey looked like for him. My guest today is Bill Prindle. Brother, I'm really glad you're here. Thanks for making the time and for being willing to share your story.
It's great to be here. I'm pumped.
Bill, tell us where you're from and how you spend your time these days.
Well, I was born in New Hampshire, grew up in Connecticut, went to school around Philadelphia. Now I lived in Washington for many years, and now I live in Charlottesville, Virginia. So I've been creeping south for 75 years.
What do you do these days to keep busy?
I have a little bit of consulting work in my clean energy and climate change work, but mostly I volunteer. Um, I work in the writing space. I do a lot of poetry, participate in that world. I'm active in Illuman. Also been active in another men's organization, the Mankind Project. And I volunteer in hospice. So that keeps me busy.
Now let's dive in and talk about the Men's Rites of Passage. The MROP is a unique experience. It's not a retreat or a workshop. It's an initiation. Many men arrive at the rites at a crossroads in their lives, looking for something they can't quite name. Before we dive into the why and the how, let's start at the very beginning. When and where did you make your rites?
I came late to the MROP. I took the MROP in September 2024 at Shrine Mont in the Shenandoah Valley here in the western side of Virginia.
And who was the weaver at your rites, and about how many men would you say were there?
We had about 60 men, and the weaver was Ned Abendroth.
Now, when you think back to that weekend, what's the first image or feeling that comes to you?
Oh, that I was being welcomed into a different way of being a man and being among men. That was apparent from when I first arrived, the different energy, and there was also a kind of a mystery to it, like, well, what's going to happen here? And I could tell something was awaiting me, but I didn't know what.
Now, generally, how was that weekend for you?
Oh, deeply moving. I was asked, why am I here? And in my case, the statement that came to me was, I'm here to make peace with my anger, which, I was reluctantly having to admit that even after doing a lot of men's work, I still had anger issues that I had not worked through. And so that was a core of what I experienced on the weekend.
Now, without sharing anything you'd consider confidential or too personal, tell us a story or tell us about some of the elements of one of the elements of the rites that really stood out for you.
Hmm. Well, let's see. As we had a lot of opportunity uh, on the weekend to be with men and then to be with ourselves in natural settings, and that was really helpful to me because there's power in numbers. There's power in circles, but there's also power in solitude and in nature. And so one of my nature walks really helped me process anger in a way that I was able to get to grief. And it was September and some of the leaves were starting to fall. And I was just watching this, I think it was a beech tree slowly shedding its leaves. And there was something inherently sad about watching leaves. Oh, this is like a death. But it was so gentle. um, I don't know. I started to experience grief in a different way. And I realized that underneath my anger was a well of grief that, anger feels like a real emotion, but for me, it's more like a gateway to something else. And the MROP helped me see that, like, oh, this is really just a wake up. It's like you need to go somewhere else. And so I was able to go into grief, and also because it was a men's focused weekend, I started feeling into my ancestor grief, my father and my grandfather, and there's some trauma stories there, and that really was helpful. Like, yeah, my grief is not just my personal stuff. There's stuff I've inherited. There's stuff that's in the field of my family. There's stuff that's in the field of my culture, and that was really, it was really helpful. I mean, not like I never get upset anymore, but I have different tools for dealing with myself when I'm starting to get outraged or annoyed about something.
Now, was there one part of the rites that, or one day, one aspect of the rites, one interaction with somebody that really impacted you most strongly?
Hmm. Yeah, I was really surprised by this one interaction. There was a man at my rights who I judged to be, uh, what's the word? Morbidly overweight. And I thought, I immediately noticed, like, yeah, that's just a judgment. You don't know this guy at all. And so, because of the way the rights, there's a lot of men, walking, talking, eating. I just found myself walking with this man and just chatting with him, and I learned things about him that gave me a whole different take on this man's life and what he'd been through and why his body is the way it is. And then, uh, without divulging too much, I just found myself connecting with him in our closing ritual that was just like, whatever powers that be set this up, because I was meant to meet this man and be confronted with my judgments and come to see, a whole other person, behind those judgments. And so that was such a gift. It's really helped me get past my tendency to, make those snap judgments about people. Oh, good, bad, this, that. Is, behind all of our judgments, there's generally a really interesting human being to be discovered.
That's beautiful. Let's step back a little bit, and I'd like to ask you, what circumstances, or maybe better put, what was going on in your life that led you to the rites at that
Hmm.
moment?
Yeah, I had known about Illuman and its predecessor for almost 15 years. I took a retreat with the Center for Action and Contemplation in 2010. It was led by Richard Rohr and the peace activist Joanna Macy, and that was really powerful. And after one session, there were some men standing around talking about these men's rights. And I thought, oh, what's that? And uh, I had already been doing men's work. So I didn't feel like I had to jump on that right away, but I did get on the mailing list, and been following the emails for a long time, and finally, in 2024, I began to notice my anger coming out in ways that was really kind of shocking to me. And without going into a whole story, I began to realize that when I would get uh, anxious about losing control, about things not going the way I had planned, this had to do with a GPS snafu. And there was nothing earth shattering about it. And I lost my temper. And my wife was like, I need to get out of the car if you're going to be this way. And it was one of those, okay, you better deal with this. Cause it was so discordant with the way I was seeing myself. I was becoming an elder. I was 74 years old. I shouldn't be still so grumpy. So it was that incident that really told me, yeah, they have more work to do. And I also noticed in contemplating that whole thing, it was about control. It was about losing control. And, my anxiety level goes up when I feel like I'm not in control. And come to find out that's true for a lot of people. Uh, so yeah, I've been able to work with that whole set of feelings and mental dynamics, let's just say. Since then, still, I still have my moments, but I feel like I have better tools now.
When you made the decision to attend the rites and you started informing your wife, other family members, your friends, what was their response?
Well, my wife has been really supportive of my men's work, and she had been she had been a witness to my outbursts, and she thought, okay, great. If you're going to work on that, I'm all in. And so it was a pretty supportive environment for me. I didn't feel like I had to sneak off and I had a men's group I was in already, and I just told them, oh, I'm doing this other workshop, and they went, great, let us know how it goes. So I had a pretty supportive base there.
As you go into the rites, obviously a lot of emotions and things are swirling through your head. Was there something though, as you stepped into Shrine Mont and began, first entered the rites that you were hoping for, or was there something that you were particularly fearful about?
Hmm. I wasn't all that fearful. I'd done some men's initiation work in the past, and you know, s many of the ritual elements felt familiar to me, like, "Oh, this yeah, I I know this." Um, so I felt maybe a little more, familiar with some of the ways that work is done, and it was more like, um, "Oh, I'm getting another bite at this, bring it on. Let's see what's here."
And when you left the rites, 4 or 5 days later, after completing the rites and you drove away, how were you feeling at that moment?
Oh, I was, I was floating, uh, I just, I felt like, "Oh, yeah, this is a well this work is a well that we can go back to," and it's not like you do one rites or one group meeting and it's all done. It's it's a well of, connection and deeper energies, um, if anything, I'm a Jungian anymore, and the Jungian world is about archetypes and these core energies that exist in the human psyche. The the work that Illuman does is good at calling forth, those energies like warrior energy to get things done, or shaman energy to do healing or transformation, or king energy to do blessings, and all that kind of lover energy to write poetry. I just I was really feeling those deeper currents, and man, that is when I can get in touch with that kind of stuff. I just feel like, I'm not alone in this world. There are other men, and there are other forces in the world that'll support me. It'll support anybody who's willing to look for them.
Post rights, did any of the conversations that you had with your wife, with other men in your men's group, or about the rights, or even about other things, did those conversations change at all?
Mm, not not dramatically. I think my wife was really glad that I'd done it and that I'd made the commitment to work on my anger. And I think she feels just safer in that sense. Yeah, I'm doing my work, and yeah, I have stuff, but but I'm taking it seriously and I'm working on it, and that's the best that any human being can be asked to do.
Now, since making your rights, has anything changed that noticeably in a practical sense, relationally, spiritually in your life? Have you noticed anything there?
Mm. Well, I did go on to do the elders' rites in 2025, and that felt like a next step for me because I did turn 75 last year, and it was pretty apparent that was a path that I wanted to follow. Richard Rohr talks about the second half of life. When I turned 75, I was like, no, this is the fourth quarter. It's like I used to play football. So, okay, fourth quarter, we're a little behind. Really gotta, step it up a notch. So yeah, I found myself drawn towards the elder pathway. And in that respect, I really got in touch with letting go of identity and belief and kind of the story I tell myself. I'm this way, I'm that way, I'm this kind of a man, I live in this kind of a country. And the question then became, well, what remains? What's left when my beliefs and my identities have kind of been loosened up or removed? And given all the chaos that's floating around in our nation and maybe in other nations too, um, it was it was really helpful for me because there's a pull to kind of engage in the this side versus that side, the us versus them, the polarization that we feel, and I've been to some extent able to take a kind of a third way view of it, like being less drawn to take a side, in the public sense, and more just like, well, what is mine to do? What can I offer to people? So for me, like hospice volunteer work is a perfect like a symbol for that. Like you just show up at the bedside of somebody who's in need of companionship or massage or whatever, and you just be present with them, right? I mean, one of the side gifts that came out of the rites was this presence practice that a man associated with Illuman offers, where it's just about becoming present without a whole fixed set of ideas, or we got to do this or we got to do that. It's just showing up and being present, and That's been, that's probably been the biggest lesson of my life the last 2 years, like, just become present, show up, and let go of the other stuff, and, see what emerges, and, gee, when I do that, things go pretty well. Um, it's my experience.
And I know you've been involved with men's work for many, many years, and you've been involved in initiation many times, both formal and informal experiences, no doubt. But has since your most recent rites, has your thoughts about masculinity and initiation shifted any?
Um, a little, I would say, my earlier ideas about initiation were, were more tinged with like, this has to be like really disturbing. It has to be physically difficult or painful or, I mean, if you look back at some initiation rituals in ancient times, there were some pretty grueling physical things that men were put through. And maybe it's just that I'm more of an elder now, but I came to appreciate the way Illuman does initiation on a more spiritual level with some of the elements of discomfort, but more just focusing on the core spiritual part of it. That sometimes it doesn't take as much physical uh, exertion as one might think. I mean, it's true. It's different for different people. Um, but for me, I came to appreciate, oh, this had a lot of similarity to other initiations, but it was a little gentler here and there. Like, oh, yeah, things can shift without having what's the word, too giant of a crowbar.
So, what kind of counsel or advice would you offer to a man considering attending an MROP?
Hmm. Um, ask yourself, who do I want to be and how do I want to be in this world? Um, and and keep a completely open mind with those questions, um, because it's the need for certainty, it's the need to lock in the answer that to me creates the problem or another problem. Like when I was younger, I would latch on to a book I'd read or a meditation method that I learned, and this is it. If I just do this, and if everybody else just did this, you know, we'd be fine. And over the years, like, well, yeah, that's not bad, but it's not the only or the full answer, right? So I would just counsel men to just take that risk, just step into a place that is unknown and trust that you'll 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 be met with much more support and many more gifts than you would have guessed.
I do have one more question. It's because of your involvement with Mankind Project, and I want to make it clear that the Mankind community and the Illumin community are very much fraternal communities. They're not
Yeah.
competitive or adversarial. There's some overlap for sure. But because you have had experience in both, what kind of counsel or advice would you give to a man who has had experience in the Mankind Project and is curious about the Illumin men's rites of passage or is considering that?
Ah, well, I would say if you've done the MKP work, you'll feel kind of at home because a lot of the work has similar uh, dimensions. But I would say you'll be invited to bring your spirituality in a different way. Um, MKP has its own way of dealing with that, but I just have appreciated the more uh, spirituality forward nature of the Illuman work. I do think there's some some cross feeds that could benefit both organizations, but I I've just come to appreciate the more it's I will say in the same breath, it's not a specific spirituality. Richard Rohr has a Christian Franciscan background, but I have never felt like I'm in a, you know, I spent 40 some years in Christian congregations, but with Illumin, I've never felt like I have to, you know, uh, accept a creed or certain beliefs or anything like that. It's very inclusive, which I think is really important because men come from all kinds of faith and from no faith as well. I'll just say, living in the Charlottesville, Virginia area, I've gotten to know the work of Thomas Jefferson a bit. And before he got into the whole national scene and was president, he was active in the Virginia House of Burgesses. And before the U.S. Constitution was formed, he helped push through a religious liberties bill in the Virginia House of Burgesses in the 1780s. And he wrote about it to a friend saying why he did it. And he said, it is meant to embrace the Jew and the Gentile, the Mohammedan and the Hindu, and the infidel of every variety. And I thought, wow, in the 18th century, for a guy who grew up in a theocratic, Church of England state, that is pretty radical. So I sort of think of Illumin in those terms, that it's got that kind of Jeffersonian inclusivity of spiritual beliefs or none.
Brother, thank you deeply. Really appreciate your honesty, courage, and you're giving us a window into your experience, and both at the MROP and beyond. So thank you so much, Bill.
Oh, my pleasure. Really enjoyed it, Brian.
For those listening who are now feeling a tug in their own soul and are curious to learn more, allow me to share a bit about the history of these rites. The men's rites of passage was originally developed by Father Richard Rohr and was first offered at Ghost Ranch, New Mexico in 1996. While it was supported for many years by the Center for Action and Contemplation, since 2012, Illumin has been the steward of this work, preserving and adapting the rites for men all over the world. To learn more about the history and the theology behind this work, I highly recommend reading Adam's Return by Richard Rohr. If you are ready to make your rites, there are 4 opportunities in the United States and another in the United Kingdom in 2026. The first is in Northern California, May 13th through the 17th. The second in the United Kingdom, July 22nd through the 26th. And in Illinois, August 12th through the 16th. There's one on the East Coast in New Jersey, September 16th through the 20th. And the final one of the year is in Texas, which is in MROP and Umbrales, our Spanish language rites, September 30th through October 4th. You can find details and registration information at illumin.org/MROP or illumin.org/events. Additionally, mark your calendars for Awaken, the annual national gathering of Illumin, taking place November 5th through the 8th in New Mexico. You can find more at illumin.org/awaken. Finally, a special thank you to our sponsor, Choosing Presence. If today's conversation moved you, I encourage you to bring more intentionality into your daily life. Download the Practicing Presence app for free at choosingpresence.org/app. It's a simple but profound way to stay connected to the journey we've discussed today. Thank you for listening to Follow Me to the MROP. Until next time, brothers, stay present.